Welcome to the Hello Irlandia Weekly News. The main news stories over the past week have included: the new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visits Warszawa and expresses hopes for what he terms a pragmatic solution to the conflict between Poland and the European Union institutions. Poland repeats its pledges of support to the Belarusian opposition after opposition activists there received lengthy prison terms. Final official statistics show that annual inflation reached 7.8% in November. And Poland remembers the victims of martial law on Monday's 40th anniversary of its imposition. On Sunday, the new German Chancellor Olaf Scholz visited Warszawa for talks with Polish Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki. While the two leaders have sharply contrasting political outlooks, Morawiecki told a joint news conference after their discussions that he very much appreciated that Poland is one of the first countries the new Chancellor has visited, and that this is a sign that you will want to work as closely as possible with us in carrying out our projects. The discussions are reported to have focused on EU matters, migration, energy, and the situation on the EU's eastern border. Morawiecki said that the two leaders discussed potential sanctions which will be on the table at the next European Council, in order to make the Lukashenko regime and its Kremlin principle realise that we are determined to defend our eastern border. Scholz said that it would be good if there was what he termed a pragmatic solution to the conflict between Poland and the EU institutions over the so-called rule of law issue, but added, in the sign of his government's likely actual position, one in line with what he termed the EU's core values of the rule of law and democracy. One of the biggest points of disagreement between Poland and the previous Angela Merkel-led German government was the Nord Stream 2 natural gas pipeline. Morawiecki said that he drew the Chancellor's attention to the risks of opening Nord Stream 2 and how the scenario we warned about is unfortunately coming true. Earlier, last Friday, the new German Foreign Minister, Annalena Baerbock, also visited Warszawa for bilateral talks with Polish Foreign Minister Zbigniew Rau. The Polish minister told the joint news conference afterwards that we are determined to strengthen our strategic dialogue, especially because there are issues on which we differ rather significantly. The two sides discussed, among other matters, the ongoing tensions between Russia and Ukraine. Baerbock also paid a courtesy call to President Andrzej Duda. There are signs that the migrant crisis on the border between Poland and Belarus is at least easing. On Tuesday, Polish security forces on the border rescued 4 would-be Syrian migrants who were stranded in wetlands along the border. The border guard said that after an operation lasting several hours, the migrants, who had been located using an unmanned aerial vehicle, were taken from the swamps, with 2 of them subsequently being removed to hospital. The border guard also reported that around midnight, a group of approximately 40 migrants, who it said were behaving aggressively, throwing stones at Polish forces, tried to cross the border near the village of Cherema. It said there had been a total of 29 attempts to illegally cross the frontier over the previous 24 hours. However, the latest figures represent a sharp decline from the height of the crisis, when the daily number of attempted crossings was reaching 700. On Tuesday, following the announcement of an 18-year jail sentence for the husband of Belarusian opposition leader Sviatlana Tikhanovskaya, President Andrzej Duda tweeted that, "I express my solidarity with all the political prisoners of the Lukashenko regime, including those sentenced today in the show trial of Serhiy Tsikhanouski." He added that, "I'm impressed by the courage of Belarusian men and women whose struggle resembles our own fight against the communist regime." In addition to Tsikhanouski, several other prominent opposition activists received lengthy prison sentences for inciting unrest in the country. Sviatlana Tikhanovskaya herself was once again in Warszawa only last Thursday, where she met with President Duda for talks centred on the political situation in Belarus and the migrant crisis on the Polish-Belarusian border. Last Friday, a spokesperson for Poland's security services, Stanisław Żaran, presented the findings of its investigation into the diversion of a Ryanair flight from Athens to Vilnius to Minsk last May. The investigation concluded that the diversion was planned and executed by the Belarusian security services in order to arrest the Belarusian dissident Roman Protasevich. Żaran told a news conference in Warszawa that the facts and evidence show unequivocally that the hijacking of the Ryanair plane on May 23rd was an operation carried out by the Belarusian security services designed to arrest a political opponent of the regime of Alexander Lukashenko. He added that, "We are definitely dealing with something which should be interpreted as an instance of state terrorism conducted by the Belarusian security services." He added that the Belarusian authorities had used a fake bomb threat, terrorised the plane crew, and deprived the passengers of liberty. Whatever about attempts to create warmth between Poland and the new German government, there isn't much sign of Christmas cheer between Poland and the EU institutions. Justice Minister Zbigniew Ziobro said in a weekend interview with the Financial Times that Poland should suspend its contributions to the EU budget and veto decisions requiring unanimity if economic recovery funds are withheld as part of the ongoing dispute over the judicial reforms in Poland. Ziobro claimed that, quote, "The European Union is posing impossible conditions because its real goal is not to achieve the supposed rule of law, but to change the government in Poland." The EU Commission has delayed approving €36 billion in COVID-19 economic recovery funding for Poland, and the European Parliament wants further measures taken against the country. Ziobro told the London-based publication that Poland should respond to the EU's blackmail with a veto on all matters that require unanimity in the EU. Poland should also revise its commitment to EU climate and energy policy, which results in drastic hikes of energy prices. He added that, "If this dispute escalates, I will demand that Poland suspends its EU contributions. It would be justifiable since the EU illegitimately denies us funds from a joint budget that we also contribute to." Ziobro went on to say that, quote, "Brutal economic blackmail is supposed to force Poland to agree to the EU being restructured into a federal state officially managed from Brussels, but in practical terms from Berlin. Before that, it is supposed to assure the fall of the democratically formed Polish government, which opposes this direction of change in Europe." The spike in the rate of inflation in Poland is continuing. In a final estimate published on Wednesday, Główny Urząd Statystyczny, GUS, reported that November's inflation rate had climbed to 7.8% on a year-on-year basis, slightly higher than the initial flash estimate. The November figure represents an acceleration of the recent upward spiral, with the annual rate standing at 6.8% in October and 5.9% in September. The Monetary Policy Council of the Narodowy Bank Polski has raised its key benchmark interest rate 3 times in recent months in a bid to curb inflation. Last Monday, December 13th, marked the 40th anniversary of the infamous 1981 imposition of martial law in Poland by the then communist regime of General Wojciech Jaruzelski. The anniversary was extensively commemorated in Poland, with President Duda participating in a ceremony at a plaque commemorating Grzegorz Siemiek, the secondary school student beaten to death by the communist paramilitary police force, the Milicja Obywatelska, in 1983. Prawo I Sprawiedliwość leader Jarosław Kaczyński laid flowers on the grave of Father Jerzy Popiełuszko, the Catholic priest killed by secret policemen in 1984. In very pointed remarks at the former Rakowiecka prison in Warszawa on Monday afternoon, during which he handed out state awards to former opposition activists, President Duda described the martial law regime as a junta of thuggish emissaries from Moscow. He described General Jaruzelski as an ordinary coward and a traitor, not, as some argue, a hero who saved Poland and the Polish people from the threat of Soviet intervention. The period of martial law in Poland is widely regarded as one of the defining periods in the history of post-war Europe, and a precursor to the momentous events of 1989. That's all for this week.